My name is James Payton. I'm a manager of supply chain risk management for Fortress Information Security, working in the cybersecurity arena.
Well, James, you work in an area of cybersecurity called governance, risk, and compliance. Can you explain what that is, what it means?
Governance, risk, and compliance is the side of cybersecurity that really gets into how companies handle, their IT risk, and how they govern how those risks are handled. How they mitigate those risks, how they document those risks, how those risks are communicated to the C-suite and to the board for action. Governance, risk, and compliance is not the most glamorous side of cybersecurity, but it's definitely a required side of it, because a lot of it is doing the front end work of identifying things before they happen, and trying to take care of them before they happen. Because a lot of things with cybersecurity is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But if you have documented the things that could come back and impact you in a negative way, you'll be able to better handle them when they do occur.
Gotcha. So what's a typical day in the life of a cybersecurity specialist look like? I mean, you don't have to give every gory detail, obviously, but just sort of walk us through the highlights. Like, what's your typical day look like?
My typical day in my world is it's pretty intense. It's a lot of email communication, a lot of follow-ups with different stakeholders. There's phone calls, checking in with my team to make sure that they have everything that they need. But just from a cybersecurity perspective, my day typically consists of checking in and making sure that we are documenting processes, we're documenting risk, and we're following what our clients need from us.
Your training in technology began in the Army. Can you just sort of summarize, tell us a little bit about that?
So my technical background comes from me being in the Army. I mean, I was kind of always into computers even as a kid, but when I got into the Army, I chose an MOS that was very closely related to technology, and I did that on purpose. My MOS in the Army was 25 Uniform Signal Support System Specialist, and so basically with that, I was trained on tactical communications. I was trained in IT, but when I actually got to my unit, and then my follow-on unit after that, I was involved mostly on the IT side. So my introduction to the tech world and IT and all of that, it all came from the Army. So I learned how to, break, fix, if something breaks, I was the guy that go fix it, and just learning the customer service side of IT. And then later on, kind of, getting a little more acquainted with cybersecurity as I, explored more education while I was on active duty. But all of my technical background that has led me to where I am now, all of that happened while I was in the Army.
Yet despite all that training, military training and tech and IT, you still had to earn civilian certifications to get into this as a civilian career. How important are certifications to those who either have that kind of MOS in the military or don't? Say they're an 88 Mike and they want to get into it. How important are certifications?
So there's a lot of debate about certifications in the cybersecurity arena, but certifications definitely help at least build a foundation for your career. It helps you understand things at a very foundational level as far as how companies do cybersecurity, what they should be doing for cybersecurity. It helps to build that base, and with anything that needs to be built upon, if your foundation is not set, then it's gonna be shaky. And certifications do that. For people that are not in tech now, if you're in the military and your job is not related to tech, certifications are a great way to get into that. So I would suggest doing the research, figure out exactly what you want to do in tech, because there's so many different avenues. But if it's something that does, require certifications to at least get in the door, you definitely want to do that. And not just to do it as a requirement, but do it so that when you do get your foot in the door, you know what you're talking about.
That makes sense. What about a college degree? Do you recommend a college degree for those who are interested in getting into a cybersecurity career?
I would recommend a college degree for those that are trying to get into cybersecurity. For the main reason is if you're looking at leadership roles eventually. If leadership is not something that's on your roadmap, I would say a college degree is not necessarily required. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people that are in this industry right now that don't have a degree at all, and they're doing very well for themselves. But they are very much what we call, what's called an individual contributor, in that they don't have any aspirations of being in any leadership positions. But if you want to be in a leadership position in cybersecurity, you're going to need that degree eventually. It's going to be a hard requirement when you apply for those leadership roles, and getting that higher education experience of how to communicate and effectively, have that high level understanding of things and how to communicate with the business and with the board and with, high level individuals within an organization. That college degree is going to come in handy for you too, because you learn a lot of those soft skills when you go to college. And I would even suggest that if you're looking at, senior leadership roles, you may also want to take a look at maybe getting a master's degree as well.
How would you characterize the demand for cybersecurity specialists right now in the workforce?
The demand for cybersecurity specialists now it's overwhelming. We don't have enough people to fill all of the roles that we have just across the broad spectrum of cybersecurity. And it's a broad spectrum. Cybersecurity covers a lot of different areas, but just take a look at your typical job sites and company career sites. A lot of them can't fill positions that are in cybersecurity because either people don't have the skills that they need, or, and this is kind of a where employers are going to have to kind of come around, the requirements for some of the positions are unrealistic. But the demand is high. Cybersecurity as a whole is not going anywhere. As long as we have bad guys that are trying to do bad things, this industry is not going anywhere.
How would you characterize the pay in this career field?
I do well. I would characterize the pay as you can definitely do well. Starting out, of course, it may not be as high as you may even think that it should be, but if you stick with it long enough and you progress and you kind of get into it, the pay in cybersecurity it's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good potential. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you love about this career?
What do I love about it? I just love the challenges. There's so many different challenges, and it's kind of weird to say because the challenges are there. Like I said, we have bad guys trying to do bad things all the time, so there's a need for this. But I like the challenge, and I like to be able to get in there, with my particular side of cybersecurity and kind of get my hands a little dirty and help try to figure out how we can identify things before they actually happen. The other thing that I like about it is that this is a career field where people are wanting to help other people succeed. I can't tell you how many times I've been on LinkedIn and I've just had out of the blue, someone reaches out to me and says, "Hey, saw your profile that you're in cybersecurity. Just thought that we could link up and just be in each other's networks." And it leads to great conversations. This is a field that people want to see others succeed, and I love that part about it as well.
Okay. What's your best advice for someone who wants to pursue a career in cybersecurity, either transitioning out of the military or a veteran who might want to switch careers?
My best advice for someone that wants to get into this industry, research first, because there are so many parts to it. Really need to figure out exactly what you want to do. If you want to be more on the side of where you're doing, incident response, you need to really dive into what all that entails and figure out if that's what you want to do. If you want to do what I do, governance, risk, and compliance, really research what it is. And that's not to say that you can't make moves between, subcategories of this industry, because you certainly can. People do it all the time, but have a very good understanding of what you want to do first, so that you don't go down the wrong road and then you have to like circle back and pretty much start over from scratch, with something else in this industry. So that's the first thing I would suggest people do your research. And the second thing I would suggest is that once you identify what you want to do, figure out what's required to get into that part of it, and go after it.
So you referenced bad guys a couple of times. As a experienced, seasoned cybersecurity specialist, what would you feel like is the biggest threat out there right now to society in general?
Society as a whole. The biggest threat for us right now, I think I would say it's our own understanding, our own kind of weaknesses, and understanding that our own information can be weaponized. As a country, there's an ongoing campaign for information warfare between us and other countries. But individually, your information, your personal information, is very valuable on the black market, with some of these hacker organizations. That's the biggest threat, is our own information about ourselves, because it can be monetized and it can be used against us, both from a government perspective and an individual level.
Well, cybersecurity specialists are like soldiers on the front lines protecting others from this. How's it feel to be like a guardian of the cyber world?
It's to be a guardian of the cyber world. I don't think I've ever even really thought about it like that, but I mean, essentially, yeah, that's what it is. It's a burden that I don't mind bearing. Honestly, I don't mind, being kind of, in that battle, because, while it is very serious, a lot of the things that are happening from a cybersecurity perspective just across the world, it's also pretty fun. It's definitely a lot of fun to be able to get in and just be involved in it. Much like, some of the things that we do, in our military careers, there's a lot of burden that comes with it. There's aspects of it that are, just really, that are enjoyable. And cybersecurity is no different.
That sounds pretty cool. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't talked about?
Let's see. Location matters with cybersecurity. Believe it or not, certain parts of the country, with cybersecurity, your odds are better if you live in certain parts of the country. Not saying that you can't live in anywhere and get into this industry and progress, but if you live in certain areas, you could definitely do your odds increase, I would say. Washington, D.C. is a great area for the cybersecurity arena, because there's obviously the federal side of it, but there's also a lot of companies that call Washington, D.C. home. Some other areas that are really good for cybersecurity are San Antonio, Texas. That's the area that I live in. Denver is a great place. Now, tech in general, when we think of technology, we think of, California. I think that's the thing that pretty much comes to a lot of people's minds, San Francisco, LA, Silicon Valley, that area, maybe even, the Pacific Northwest, because it's a hot spot as well. But Austin, Texas is becoming a hub for tech. So I say all that to say, if you're looking at this industry, whether you're coming out of the military or not, if you're just trying to get into tech in general, think about where you want to be when you get into that. A lot of companies are offering remote options where you can live anywhere, which is great. But if you want to increase your odds, take a look at your location and your options of where you can go. And your odds may increase based off where you are.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.